I'm not sure if I covered it in some previous videos, but before we put this thing on the lift and fix that CV joint on the drive shaft, or the Reinstallation joint, whatever you want to call it, I wanted to go over a couple other things here. One thing is, I don't think the mechanic changed the oil. It looks like he was going to change oil because there's a brand new oil filter, but the engine calls for 5W20. Even if you look in the owner's manual, it says engine oil 5 quarts 5W20. But the mechanic bought, not that one, that's for a different car, he bought 10W30. So that's wrong. I mean, it's brand new. He didn't put it in yet, thank God. And then the other thing was, there's 2 coolant tanks on these cars. One's for the main coolant system for the engine, and the other one's for the electrical system. So the main one, you know, engine coolant, radiator. The auxiliary one is for your DC-DC converter, cools that. And it also cools, there's a pressure and a return line in the transmission that cools that. Well, when we first looked at this, this was empty, which it's empty still. This one's empty, or was empty, and we filled it up with the correct coolant. Why were they empty? Well, the main one was empty because he did some radiator lines, different coolant fittings and such. But the other one was empty as well because he replaced the transmission, so you lose coolant. So they were both empty. Look under the car, you can see he's done some of that work. And there's some fittings there, hose clamps, to replace some coolant lines, right? But there was no coolant in here. We added the correct coolant. There was none in here. We added some. We still got to add some more. But there was no coolant because he drained. Obviously, when you replace lines on the radiator and replace the transmission, you lose all that coolant. He never put that back in. Well, not only that, he has the wrong coolant. Well, I don't think he put any in yet, which is, I mean, obviously you can't run it like that, but the engine coolant says, or engine coolant and motor electronics coolant says Motorcraft Premium Gold engine coolant with bittering agent. So there's actually a special coolant with additives for the hybrid car like this. Well, what he bought was just the O'Reilly's antifreeze. This is just your green antifreeze you got to add water to, but it says Ford pre-2002. Well, this is a 2009, so obviously that's the wrong coolant. Doesn't look like he put any in yet, but I just don't understand why he wouldn't get the correct coolant and put everything in and, you know, add the coolant, because obviously you can't drive it like that. So that was another thing I did find. So what we're going to do now is get it put on the lift, replace that CV joint on the drive shaft, and then the Reinstallation joint on the drive shaft, or if you want to call it. Get that replaced, and then continuing to fix the other stuff like the bell housing bolts that he forgot, some clips, some wire connectors, the max pump, which is the electronic coolant pump, put that up in there, some exhaust bolts, the exhaust donut for the exhaust leak, and the hang the exhaust back up, and there's some other stuff I'm sure that he missed. So we'll get up on the lift and go on from there. Alright, so I found some more stuff wrong. If you look here, this thing's leaking antifreeze everywhere. I got key on engine off. That electrical noise you hear, that's the max pump, the electric coolant pump. If I can get my camera in here. So look at that nipple on the right there. On the left you got your hose clamp, the nipple on the right, it's just pissing antifreeze out of it. Because obviously there's no hole, or no holes on that fitting. So it's just leaking antifreeze. It's electric coolant pump, the max pump you can hear on, is pumping antifreeze. Well, this guy didn't even hook the damn hose up right. There's not even a hose there right now. So it's leaking antifreeze everywhere. We put the correct antifreeze in, but now we got to fix that leak because the dumb mechanic can't even hook that stuff up right. So, yet again, we found something else wrong. Well, I found why the hose ain't hooked up right. See if I can get my camera in here. There's the fitting. If you look back, there's the hose. So on the top of the screen is the fitting leaking out. The bottom is the hose. He just cut the damn hose and didn't even hook it up to that fitting. That's for the electrical side of the coolant system. No wonder there's no damn coolant in this vehicle. And it keeps leaking out. This is like, I can't believe it. Like, everything this guy has done has been wrong. Like, it's embarrassing for that guy. Like, how do you miss all this stuff? How do you call yourself a mechanic or a technician when you can't do basic maintenance? This guy needs to learn how to do his job, or he's going to hurt somebody one day. So we got the front, or the tire drive shaft. We got this intermediate shaft out here. Reason is, you go ahead and spin that. It's because when the mechanic, like, here, hold that. Now spin it. It's not supposed to spin like that. It's supposed to spin as one. That's where all that play was, because when he pulled the transmission, and the axle up there, he had to pull the drive shaft, and obviously he didn't put that together right. So we got to take this apart, and I know if you're not careful, this will come apart just like he did. Well, the other problem is you can't find just this part aftermarket. You can up to 07. I even called the dealer. They don't sell that serviceable. You can get the U-joints and stuff, but what they do is they make you buy the whole entire drive shaft. There may be an aftermarket company that sells it. I haven't found one yet, but that's where it bolts up at. So we're going to take it apart and see what this mechanic screwed up again. All right, so I got those clamps off. If you look, that's where the balls go in there. If you look in here, they're just laying in there. You can really tell in this very much light. Get that light. Get some light in there so you guys can see. You turn the light on though. It is on, never mind. So there's balls in there, but obviously when the mechanic worked on this, I don't know how he missed that. Disassembled it incorrectly. I mean, he did not disassemble this, but when he took the front, the transmission and the differential out, because it has to come out, and he unhooked all that stuff. He did it incorrectly, and that thing all came apart. So we're going to see if we can rebuild it, like I said, or put it back together, re-grease it. Because if not, he's going to have to get a whole new drive shaft, which is anywhere from like $500 to $800. So just another thing this mechanic, which he calls himself a mechanic, screwed up. All right, so I got that apart there. You look at the cage, there's no balls in there. They're all in there. There's one right there. So we're going to try to put all this back together, re-grease it up, and then I'll go from there. Hopefully we can, because like I said, these drive shafts are very, very expensive. All right, so we got it all apart. The reason this thing came apart before when the mechanic was working on it is because he hyperextended it when he pulled all this apart. I'm sure that's what happened, because it's just like a CV axle. You can't hyperextend them when you pull them. You got to be careful, because then all your balls fall out. So we're going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up a little bit more. Try to get this thing back together. Inspected it. It looks pretty good. All the balls and all these components here. And we got some new CV bolt grease, joint grease, so we'll use that. We'll clean this dust boot up and get this thing back together. Alrighty, so I got that off. Just tap that out of there. And if you notice on here, you got a long and then a short, a long and a short. Same thing on here. One side's long, one side's short, or long, short, long, short. I'm gonna put this in here, long to short and short to long. You got your 6 balls. Got everything cleaned up, and we're going to start installing this thing. We got all these balls in. So if you look here, what I'm talking about, you got a long to a short to a long, all the way around. So what I did is when I put these in, you roll them back. You got to be very careful and slide. You can go all the way back, slide them in. I'm not going to roll it back. But what the guy did is, I'm sure if you hyperextend and pull the drive shaft, it'll slide out one way or the other, right? And that's exactly what it did. So now this thing will go on. We'll put it all back together. It'll go on like this. That clip will hold it on with the boot and everything. But what he did, he hyperextended. If I pull it this way or this way, it'll slide out. That's exactly what that supposed mechanic did. So now we got to rebuild it, which is a good thing. We can fix it, because otherwise it'd be another $500 to $800 for this thing. Alrighty, we greased it all with the new grease. We just got to put this little clip on right here. Put this on. We'll put some more grease in there. Wipe the surface up. Put that cover on. Clean the boot up. Put the steel band clips on there. I got a special tool for that. put this drive shaft in, and we'll continue to fix the other stuff on the car and go for its drivability test drive. So got the clip on, greased up some more. All this moves, and it turns the whole drive shaft, and it slides, and it rotates. Or it doesn't slide, but everything moves correctly. So we're just going to wipe it up, put the bands on, put it in the vehicle, and go from there. I already got it back in the vehicle now. Still got to put the clamps on here yet. But if you look, there's no movement, and it turns the whole entire, that's just, it turns it all. And there's no movement in there. So what happened was when he pulled this apart, he hyperextended it, and the balls came out, and that's why we had a hard time. We didn't capture it on video, but we had a hard time getting this joint out because he overextended it. So we had to completely rebuild it because the mechanic screwed this up too. So we still got a bunch of other stuff we got to do this vehicle since the mechanic well, doesn't know what the hell he's doing. All right, so we're driving it now. I know it's dark out, but everything's for the shaft, that's all good now. We still got a bunch of stuff to do. Brackets, hangers. I think I got all the connectors, but we still got a bunch of work to do from where the mechanic didn't put bolts in. So I got to be careful until I get all that done, because he obviously couldn't do it right. Obviously doesn't know what he's doing. Just shitty workmanship there. But this thing's working. Started right up, no issues. Now that we got everything programmed, the battery charged, you know, the drive shaft fixed, all the shit that this mechanic screwed up. So if I stop right here, it's in electric vehicle mode. Engine just started up there. So check tranny fluid, make sure that was all good. So I need to go through and do a bunch more maintenance to this thing, and then we'll go drive and get on the highway and do some more drivability checks and make sure all the P1000 code goes away for its drivability checks, and check all the other modules, because who knows what else this guy missed. It's just very time consuming, because we got to go back and basically redo everything that this mechanic did. I don't even know why they call him I don't know. I shouldn't even be calling him a mechanic, honestly, because he's just he's a hack. Well, he sucks at it. So yeah, we'll go from there.